snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys! So I am here today to do a joint book and novella review. The first one that I'm going to be talking about is the book, and that is Caliban'S War, which is by James S.A. Corey. This is part of the Expanse series. It's the second one in that series, and it is a sci-fi sort of space opera type series. The second one that I'm going to be talking about is quite different. It's actually a novella, and it's written by Catherynne Valenti, which means that it's always going to have stunning writing because she is fabulous at writing. And that is Six Gun Snow White, which is a novella kind of spin-off of or adaptation of Snow White, and really weird, kind of crazy, wacky version of it, but I loved it. So let's start off with talking about Caliban'S War. This one I actually really enjoyed. I read it not too long ago, and I read it with James from James Chatham. I'll put a link to his channel below. And I really had a great time reading this. I did enjoy the first one in this series. I thought it was really fun when I read it, but I didn't feel like I quite got connected with the characters on the same level that I would like to. I felt like the overall idea of this sort of intergalactic space planet-based world where everyone was moving around all the time, there was different infrastructure, there was different stuff going on. It was all a very great idea. Like, I love seeing that sort of setup. It didn't feel original enough for me to completely love it, and I didn't feel like I fully connected with any of the characters in the first book, so I couldn't give it more than 4 stars. But this one, I felt like it was a step up. I think gave it 4 out of 5 stars, so it still got the same rating, but I think this was a higher, more solid 4 stars because I still really liked it. Didn't love it, but I definitely felt like I got to know the characters more in this. I definitely felt like the world, or worlds as a whole, were sort of being expanded. The setting was getting bigger, and the overall scope of the story was getting bigger and more dramatic. But we also have some really personal moments. We also have some really great storylines that make you connect emotionally, and I don't think we had that as much in the first one. I felt like the first one was more about the action, the adventure, getting you into it all. This one felt like it still had a plot that was very clear, and it's mainly focused around this man who our original crew picks up, and he's lost his daughter in a big war that's been going on, and it's kind of about finding her, very vaguely, like it's about a lot more than that, but that's the rough overview. And I think that his storyline, the man who's lost his daughter, made it so much more personal, so much more easy to connect with, and that really helped the story. It really benefited the story in that I could connect with that character, I could feel what he was feeling, and I could sympathise with it, and I really enjoyed being able to do that and kind of get myself into the mindset of him a bit more, and also into the setting of this intergalactic world, which is a very big setting and something hard for you to grasp if you haven't read as much sci-fi as some people, which I definitely haven't. I'm sort of fairly relatively new, even though I've read a bit of it now. I still wouldn't say that I'm well versed in sci-fi. So this one for me was much better in that it was more personal, just dramatic, just fun, just an adventure that I really enjoyed, and theorising with James about what we thought was going to happen and who we thought was good and who we thought was bad and who we thought was being played was really excellent, and I just think that enhanced our experience of the book even more. So definitely a fun one to discuss and definitely a fun one to read, and I will be continuing on with this series in the future, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, as I said. The next one I'm going to talk about is Six Gun Snow White. This is by Catherynne M. Valenti, and if any of you have read any of Catherynne Valenti's books before, you'll know that she writes so flawlessly. Her magical setup is absolutely stunning. She wrote The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland, which is a book that I have read by her. It's the only other book I have read by her. And the world building and the emotion and the sentiments that she gets across in her writing of that book, and the sort of naivety of childhood and the whimsical fairy tale-esque view that they have, is stunning in that book. But the story was a little bit too weird for my liking, so I liked it but I didn't love it. So I haven't continued that series, but this one I thought would be interesting because it's a novella, so I thought maybe this is a good way for me to get into Catherynne M. Valenti's work and sort of see what she's all about. And I do think I stand by that. I do think, having read it now, that it is a good entry point into her work, and you could be able to see the sorts of things she likes to do and how she likes to twist and manipulate a story from her adaptation of Snow White. So this is about Snow White. It definitely has a character who's called Snow White who narrates the most of the story to us, but it's not the Snow White traditional fairy story that you know at all. It has a wild western sort of setting, and it's definitely got vibes of like cowboys, cowgirls, that sort of era, and I really enjoyed that added element. It also has things like guns and horse riding and crazy things that go on in the Wild West essentially, and that's all integrated very well into the story. We also have an accented character who is narrating it to us, and that's interesting to see as well because you get sort of reference to what the people of that time and of that place were like. And I just felt like it was very convincing in the Wild West element. I haven't read much Wild West fiction, but to me it was convincing at least. I also really like the fact that we do get reference of people who are somewhat similar to the Seven Dwarfs, although not that similar. They're kind of just interesting people and interesting characters. We also get mention of Charming, although not in the way you would imagine at all, and definitely we get mention of things that are not necessarily straight up from Snow White, things like Rose Red. I just felt like this was whimsical, it was funny, it was entertaining, it had some great emotional moments as well, like you definitely feel for Snow because she's put in some horrible situations by her stepmother, as in the original, but it's quite different in this one. It has strong parallels to Snow White, like you can definitely tell which part of the story you're in, but it's really well written, it's very whimsical, it has some great lines that you could easily quote at people. It's a definite introduction place to her work if you want to try something out by her. I think it's fairly cheap on the Kindle. Check it out, it's a strange one, it's a weird one. You've got to go into it thinking, this is not Snow White, this is a really warped, weird version of Snow White. But if you do go into it thinking that, then you'll probably really enjoy it. So I would love to hear your thoughts if you have read it. Let me know. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it actually. I was unsure whether I was going to give it 3.5 or a 4 for quite a while, but I think it just edged that 4 stars because the writing was so incredibly beautiful and the story and the narrative was really exciting the whole way through, so I couldn't really give it a 3.5, it had to be a 4. So do let me know your thoughts, not only on that one, but also on the other one that I mentioned, which is Caliban'S War. Thank you all for watching, and I shall see you all again soon in another video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat.